The Metroidvania Review official stream. My name is Professor Q, and I have with me Nick. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I am Nick.
And today we're playing Destroy Space Aliens. This game has a lot of story behind it, and how I ended up reviewing it, and how I felt about it. And we're going to talk about that as we play. So I think it would be good to just dive in, because there are a lot of things that you just won't know unless it's been spoiled. And unfortunately, Nick, during the sound test, already had some reactions that I would have liked to have live, but he'll have other reactions as we go along.
Yeah, at least one or two.
At least one or two. One thing I will mention is that, like any playthrough, we are going to be spoiling this game as we are playing through the game. There's a lot in this game that I think that is valuable if you go in blind. But as I mentioned in my review, sometimes you have to be spoiled at least a little bit to know that it's something you want to play. So, again, as I've said in the last playthrough of Bon Appetit, jump off at any time if you are convinced that this is something that is for you. And if you're not convinced that it's for you, stay and enjoy the company, and maybe you'll change your mind as you go. If not, that's good too. So let's get started.
So is this a sequel to Destroy All Humans?
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Attention. This game does not save progress. Please record your password manually to continue from where you left off. Which is nice, because we're recording this. I don't even have to do that. I can just go back to the stream. So it's nice. This game actually has really good controller support. The downside is that you do have to change your buttons every time you start the game for the first time. But there's only 4 buttons, so it's not like a huge deal or anything.
Wait, are they binding attacks to the start and select buttons?
No.
Oh, all right.
The switch button is what they recommend, but I put it on my shoulder button because that's where I prefer it. Letter from Frank Jones V. Dear Sir Frank Jones VI, I am going away for some amount of time. Please watch over the castle in my absence. Your uncle, Sir Frank Jones V. Approaching.
It's always uncles.
It's always uncles. They give nice big castles. Approaching the castle, Sir Frank Jones VI awaited a life of luxury. But as on his way to the gardens, he noticed it was under attack. He knew it was his duty to destroy space aliens.
Wait, are we just crazy, or are there actually space aliens?
Well, you'll find out.
I am enamored with this narrative.
All right, so as Nick mentioned in our sound test, this game has a Game Boy aesthetic for the entire game. There are the titular space aliens right there.
It'd come from space.
And I have to get used to the controls again. So I've had some weird graphical glitches. I've tried to mess with it. I'm sorry that they're there. Pretend that we have kind of a dirty Game Boy cartridge.
Why didn't you blow on it?
I did. It didn't work. All right, so in this game you have your sword, which is basically the sword from Symphony of the Night. You have lots of lag. Like, after I push that button, I'm holding left, but he doesn't go until you see him go there. But like in Symphony of the Night, if you do it in the air, you kind of cancel the lag. So you kind of want to jump before you do any attacks, just like in Symphony of the Night.
And Ninja Gaiden.
And if you do an attack in the air and then kind of stack it up, you can kind of get a double hit in. So little advanced techniquing there. You also start with this amazing ranged attack that goes through walls. It does less damage. What's that?
It's a Hadouken.
Yeah, and it has a similar problem to the sword where you can't you can't move as quickly after firing it on the ground. You can kind of see the lag there. I'm holding left immediately after I fire each time. And just like the sword, you can kind of stack them up on each other by doing the jump technique.
There's no ammo or hearts or anything that consumes?
Nope. So you would think that the range attack would be better in almost all situations, but it's actually pretty balanced. I'm trying not to hit my buttons quite as loud, since I know that comes over the speakers, but not much I can do about that sometimes. So the funny thing about this game is that it was actually sent to me by the developer. This was when I had first started the Metroidvania review. And I got past this intro stage. And when I first saw it, my first impression was like, what did you think when you see this game uses password saves, Nick?
Well, the first thing I thought of was the original Metroid, because it used a password system.
Well, the first thing I thought was, why the heck are they using a password system in 2016 or whenever this game came out? And that was like my first impression was, this game doesn't seem like it's gonna do much for me, but we'll play it anyway. I try and keep an open mind as I'm going into any game that I play. And then I got a little bit further in, and I'm like, this isn't even a Metroidvania. Why am I spending my time doing this? And I was getting a little frustrated because, you know, the lag on the attacks and things like that. I hadn't gotten good yet, and I was like, I don't know if this game's worth my time if it's not a Metroidvania. And this was one of the first games that was sent to me on the Steam Curator system. I learned later on that when you have a curator, you just kind of randomly get games from developers, regardless of what your specialty is. I've gotten like solitaire games and like clickers and things like that people are like, we want you to review this. I've declined anything that wasn't a Metroidvania. But this game taught me to not make snap judgments about what's a Metroidvania and what's not. Kind of early on in the process.
Man, this is a long boss fight for the first boss fight.
Yeah, this is our intro boss. And
Giant shrimp.
He's kind of a boss of, or it's kind of a battle of attrition. Oops, probably gonna die because I'm on stream. He's not too difficult. You just wait till he jumps over you and get a few hits in. Make sure you run under him as soon as you're too far to the left or too far to the right. Alright, almost there. Alright, now his life bar is broken, and not much we can do with him at this point.
Oh. Where's he going?
He's opening the castle for us. It's just kind of a weird doorbell. Alright, so there's our first password. That's actually different from the password that I got when I did my test this week, which is weird to me. I wonder why. I wonder if I did anything different. So,
wonder if it tracks health.
I got a timestamp.
Different amounts of health.
I got a timestamp when I beat this game the first time, and I actually beat this game in one sitting when I actually sat down to play it after I learned more about it. And it gave me a timestamp at the end, so I'm wondering if they track time somehow in the
yeah.
In the intro or in the password system. Anyway, where should we go, Nick?
Let's go to the library.
To the library. So suddenly we're playing Mega Man. I actually did not know this at the time when I played it because I hadn't played various Castlevania games. But this is mimicking Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge on the Game Boy. It's available in the Castlevania collection, where you select a level. And just like Castlevania 2 and Belmont's Revenge, there's really no purpose in doing any order because you don't get anything from doing any of these levels.
Give you options to give you options.
Right, just for the sake of it. I mean, I think in Castlevania Belmont's Revenge you could like take an axe from one level and carry it to another level at least. But those are often available in those levels anyway, so...
I think it probably had more to do with reducing level sizes on the highly limited space of the Game Boy.
It might have been. I don't know how that would work, but I'm not a programmer, so... So those graphical lines that are showing up, I kind of wonder if I had that problem the first time I played it and I just kind of dealt with it. Sometimes I do that.
No, I noticed it earlier, but actually until you said something I didn't notice it again.
I think I pointed it out twice now, so I'm sure that... So this first part of the game is really just about responding to ambushes. I'm just going to kind of let them jump over so I can jump over them.
Seems like the perfect game to have a downward thrust.
go. You actually don't get any other attack modes other than the ones that you start with.
Wow, really? So it's just the sword and your ranged attack?
Yep, they get upgraded, but they don't... That's what you get. Oh gosh. These little ball things that appear off the edge of the screen are the worst. Let's see.
Anything that can move through level geometry when you can't is annoying.
Hey, it's Silverint. Welcome. Yes, they're space shrimps. I actually wonder why... I think maybe they explain why they look the way they do a little later on. I just love how... I love the
shrimp
plot
is
of this game.
the natural perfect form is the shrimp.
I think that they may be representing fetuses. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Well, if we get that far, we'll find out. The first time I played this game, it took me, according to the timestamp at the end, about 5 hours, 4.5 hours to finish. So I'm guessing we're going to complete this in about 4 parts at 90 minutes apiece.
Sounds good. Kind of on par. How many plays did we have on Environmental Station Alpha? 6? 5?
11. Oh, you mean before the first ending?
Yeah.
It was only 5? I think it was the fifth one that we had the first ending. So this first section of the game kind of teaches you how to be patient, because that's kind of where the meta is in this game. You have to wait for the best opportunity to attack, which is normal for most games, but I think it's especially important in this game, especially given your weaknesses, the lag after your attacks, and etc. And sometimes it's better just to use the range attack just to... This is what I was talking about with ambushes. Oops.
Oh wow, they don't mess around.
Yep.
So where would you rank this game on the difficulty scale?
I think I put it on high, if not brutal. I think it definitely hits brutal by the end. And we're on our first boss, which actually requires us to use the range attack. So this game brings up a concept that I don't know if anybody's given it an actual name yet. If they have, I will start using it. Sometimes, I mean, I don't like study game design journals or anything like that. Most of my game design knowledge comes from watching Mark Brown, who uses all kinds of research and official stuff. I highly recommend his channel. But what I call this is the promise. And that is the idea that whenever the going gets tough, it's going to be worth getting through in your game design. So like, for instance, if you're having a hard time on this boss, how do you know that getting past it, the game's going to get better? When you're frustrated. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just kind of in general, is playing this game worth my time?
Right. And I think early on in your game, you have to make a promise to the player through the actions of your game, or through what the game presents to the player, that yes, this game is going to be worth your time. And if you fail to do that, you're going to lose your audience early on. And I have played some great games that have terrible promises at the beginning. Redo, I didn't like it at first, and now it's one of my favorite games. Like, perfect example of that. This game has the worst promise at the beginning of the game, in my opinion. I enjoy it now. Like, it took me a little bit to kind of get used to the controls and really enjoy these boss fights. And as you can see, it's very pattern-based, and every time you hit one of those thresholds on the life bar, which is very well presented, they kind of speed up or add new attacks.
So you know exactly when and where they're going to change things up.
Right. Like, Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, I think, have, because I have to bring those up every stream, have different phases during attacks, but their life bar doesn't telegraph it as easily.
Sure.
You don't know exactly when they're going to start doing things crazy. This game shows you outright. Whoops. So as you can see, it's not easy, this boss.
Yeah. I was going to say, this game does not pull punches.
So he gives you a little bit of a break where you can kind of get a few hits in. But as you can see, it's also very feasible to no damage this if you get the pattern down. Whoops. And you really got to be careful when you use your attack on the ground, because like I said, you have that lag afterwards.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is kind of a good example of why I'm not a huge fan of bosses with really, really long health bars.
Right. So anyway, I probably started on this actual level the first time I played this game. And I got to the boss, and I'm like, this is hard, and I don't think this is a Metroidvania. I don't have time to play this. And so I basically stopped at that point. I think I had 30 minutes on my Steam timer at the time.
But you had not beaten this boss yet?
I hadn't beaten any boss, no. That's as far as I got before I was like, this looks like Mega Man. This is not a Metroidvania, right? Like,
sure.
Is there anything that screams Metroidvania at you so far? I guess is the question.
No, not at all.
No, I didn't know at the time that this actually is emulating classic Vania to a degree. I mean, obviously it has a little taste of Mega Man in there because of the range attacks, especially on this boss. I'll have to... Excuse me if I go quiet for a little bit at this last part, because it gets pretty intense at the end. The castle is, yes, very Castlevania-like.
And the aliens, since, you know, Castlevania was full of those.
Well, that's the Metroid piece. There we go.
Wait, are these space pirates?
No spoilers. The answer is no. No, they're not space pirates. All right,
wait,
so
he left behind a glow ball and you couldn't even pick it up?
Nope. Alright, so one down. Where should we go next?
How would you track that password without taking a picture?
You can just hit F12 in Steam. I actually, my picture library is full of passwords.
Let's do Watchtower. Let's go all around the Watchtower.
Alright, let's do the
Wait,
Watchtower.
that would mean... So we... That's a song.
Oh, I got you. I know. I don't know that song. Go ahead and sing it, Nick.
No, thanks.
Alright, here we go. Oh, we can't go that way.
Get the Hendrix song, actually.
I think we can stand right here and just exploit the fact that they can't jump this high.
Oh, poor shrimps.
I'm going
They
to...
are one.
My impatience has bitten me again. It always bites me. I think... Obviously, this is the type of, like, the ambush system, or the way that enemies ambush you. It's the type of thing that as you memorize the level, it makes it easier.
Sure.
But, you know, you also get good at responding to them. So this first part of the game, in my opinion, is just too slow.
But very straightforward.
Very slow, very straightforward. But it's like... If you've watched the JoJo series, have you gotten into that yet, Nick?
No, I've just watched that one episode that I watched in like the 5th season because I thought it was the beginning of the show.
The wrong
and was
season.
very confused.
It's like getting on a train and it's suddenly going 80 miles an hour.
Like, yeah, getting on the train while it's going 80 miles an hour.
Right, exactly. Just a little whiplash and probably a concussion. So the first arc of JoJo kind of sets up the rest of the series, but it's also not particularly good. It's not bad, but it's not great. Like, you wouldn't watch that series and say, "Oh, I did this during my playtest too." You wouldn't watch that and be like, "Oh man, I totally need to watch more of this." Necessarily.
So it's like Hunter x Hunter.
Maybe, yes. I feel like Hunter x Hunter is more of a drip feed. I keep getting caught in that ceiling there. where it just gradually gets better. Whereas JoJo kind of, like, it introduces its elements and then it just gets crazy. Almost instantly, as soon as the next arc starts. Come on down, Shrimpy. Yeah, that's right.
Good old towers.
I'll
get you. No. Do enemies drop health?
Nope.
Oof.
Get rid of the back. Whoops. For some reason, I thought that was going to go over my head. I think the big shrimp take 5 hits from your bullets and 3 hits from your sword, something like that. I think I may have hit the checkpoint at this point. Oops. Always, when you get ambushed, always reposition yourself into less of a
compromised position.
Yeah, compromised position. I'm sure that real-life generals will tell you this.
I think that was in Art of War.
Was it?
Probably. Really, if you read Art of War, it's all really like, oh yeah,
common sense.
Kind of common sense, yeah.
Well, you know, if you have 0 experience in war...
Sure. He was kind of writing... He was writing the instruction booklet on war before anything like that existed.
Right.
That's why I wish I was alive like 2,000 years ago. I could have written a book like The Art of Cooking, and then everybody would think I'm a genius, even though I was just saying things like, put egg in water.
The art of putting cheese on bread.
Oh, yeah. They think you're...
Oh, gosh.
They think you're a, like, cooking god.
Put cheese on bread. Wait 2,000 years for microwave.
Wait, do you put cheese on bread and then put it in the microwave?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking a quesadilla.
Oh, alright. Because that sounds disgusting.
Some people think microwave quesadillas are disgusting, too.
I mean, I wouldn't make a quesadilla in the microwave, but... I mean, I don't think
I won't
it's as
judge you
as...
like I would judge you if you put bread in the microwave.
Well, yeah, bread's gonna get soft and soggy. Why can't I think of the thing you put a quesadilla on? A tortilla, there we go. A tortilla isn't gonna get soggy.
It kind of gets hard and crispy if you cook it too long.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, I'd rather have hard and crispy than like, moist
I didn't
bread.
jump high enough to lure that bullet. I'm actually not doing too bad. I haven't died yet. The worst thing about this place is falling down, to be honest.
I mean, isn't that the worst thing about every place?
The worst thing about the mall is when you fall down.
I mean, that's accurate. I mean, that and Cheesecake Factory. That stuff's overpriced.
I think the prices in any mall is an issue. They gotta pay that rent.
Remember malls? Remember Wetzel's Pretzels? I remember Wetzel's Pretzels.
We managed to not talk about the coronavirus all the way up until now, Nick. Come on.
What do you mean? I'm talking about Wetzel's Pretzels. What are you talking about, coronavirus?
Oh, man. Good old malls.
Oh, man. I used to love the mall. I used to live right across the street from one of the biggest malls in the city.
Yeah.
And I went from like living in my house and there being a farm, like a cornfield across the street, to Chandler Fashion Square, and literally there being 100 shops. That was a pretty cool place to grow up.
Yeah, the same thing kind of happened to me. It was just a big dirt field.
I think that was kind of we both secret backstage secrets. We both grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, which is a bunch of dirt and new development.
It was. Oh, crud. Okay, good. I had a catcher.
But anyway,
it was a good place
Phoenix
to grow
in the
up.
90s and early 2000s. It was all about malls because it's too hot to do anything outside. And you're right. falling down is like the #1 enemy in this level.
Oh man. Especially if you're impatient like I am. Probably my least favorite of these initial levels. I'm trying not to say things because I don't want to spoil too much. I want to kind of have it happen organically.
This kind of reminds me of the tower in... Actually, I'm about to say this, and now that I think about it, there's towers in almost every game. But the tower in Psychonauts... Not Psychonauts. What's the Metroidvania where everybody's filled with white goo, and then you go to the moon?
Oh, Iconoclasts.
Iconoclast, there we go.
Kind of like
tower in that.
That's, I guess the name has a similar...
It was in the same part of my brain.
The Psychonaut shelf is where I keep my Iconoclasts.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. But the tower in Iconoclast was... Oh man, I remember that thing drove me crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the part that ruined the game for you.
No way, I wouldn't say it ruined the game. I enjoyed the game quite a bit.
I don't think that the game will be ruined if you watch the stream. Because you still have to play. I mean, you still have to get past the challenges. It's just that it does have quite a few surprises as you go. And like I said, if there's any point that you're like, I need to play this for myself, I want to see it for myself, then by all means, jump off. I will not be offended.
And the stream will still be here when you finish playing.
Yeah, and you can hear about Nick and I talk about sand and malls.
And moist bread.
And moist bread that you cooked in the microwave.
We know that's why you come to this stream.
Don't. I should put that as the title of this video, the moist bread stream.
Yeah.
Or don't microwave bread.
I mean, it's just common sense. Don't do it.
It says right on the package, don't microwave. No.
I mean, imagine pulling a frozen piece of garlic bread, and instead of putting it in the oven and making it crispy and delicious, you put it in the microwave and it turns into goo.
Hurry, I can get past one. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, this is a very... We're at high difficulty right now, and it tests your patience quite a bit, this first part.
Do all enemies do 1 tick of health of damage?
I think at this stage of the game, yeah. So as I was saying about JoJo, the first arc is not great, but you kind of need it in order for the rest of the series to make sense. Because it builds on that first arc, and even though they kind of stray from some of the main ideas that they created right from the start,
it's setting the tone.
It sets the tone of the show, and well, it actually doesn't, because originally the show was very serious. Like, it gets very goofy later on.
I picked that up when I accidentally watched an episode from the 5th season.
Right. It jumps sharks, and then it finds bigger sharks to jump.
On the original sharks?
Yeah, on top of the original sharks, while they're shooting lasers and flying helicopters. That is JoJo in a nutshell.
Awesome.
I would not say that show is a very deep thinking show, but it is fun, and because of that, I recommend it. So in this game, this 4-level intro is extremely slow, and it really tested my patience.
I'm intrigued to see what comes after this. You're talking it up a lot.
I hope I'm not overhyping it, but here's the thing, though, is I actually, like, once you get good at this part, it's kind of enjoyable. It's not enjoyable when you fail, but it is enjoyable to succeed, just because, like, especially this tower, you have to go down so far if you fail, and I really hope I hit a checkpoint at this point, because I am probably not going to make this.
Do you have an example of a game that is enjoyable when you fail?
That's true. Let me think. Any game that has an instant replay that's hilarious.
Okay. Yeah, but no, that's true.
Dope. Okay, good. I did get a checkpoint. Phew. That makes me feel a lot better.
Does it tell you when you hit a checkpoint, or is it just kind of unrestricted?
No, and you'll find out why later. So much later stuff, Nick. So much later stuff. But we have to get through these 4 levels first. It feels good to get good, even in the beginning here. Like, if this is all the game was, this first part where you're going through these levels, I'd be like, yeah, this was a fun game back in the day when it was on the Game Boy, you know? I'm sure glad that they have save states now when you play it, you know?
Old Game Boy games.
That is what my reaction to it would be if I'm going to regret doing this. I did regret doing that. Heck.
Oh, leaving the one on the left.
Yes. I'm being impatient. It's probably gonna bite me again. It always gets me. It always gets me, Nick. My impatience is my weakness.
Oh, man. This is like borderline bullet hell.
I just have to hit him one more time. Okay. And there's gonna be another ambush. No, there's no ambush. Except for him. There's no ambush except for the ambush. Oh, crap. Alright, we're gonna bring them down here. They'll follow me. Slowly. But at least I can get out of the other bullet hell. That bullet on the left is making me worried. Oh. Okay. Now I can scale back up. I find this fun. It is extremely frustrating when you fail because of how far back you end up having to go. Now, as you saw, they're not like stingy when it comes to checkpoints, but it sets you back just far enough with the ambushes that it stings.
Yeah, I think this game would definitely burn me out.
I don't remember if that statue does anything. Oh, I guess we're here. Alright, second boss. They all like to make fire come around the walls.
I was gonna say.
This one I could actually hit with my sword if I decided to.
Is this a space ghost?
What's that?
Is this a space ghost?
Coast to coast, man.
Nice.
Let's see if I can no damage this guy. Come in here with 2 hit points. I love the boss music. It cracks me up.
Here.
I think it's the same
music on.
I think it's the same as the title music that you may have heard earlier when we did the sound test. Man, the bosses are what make this game so worth it to me.
Old-fashioned chiptune.
Alright, second phase. Let's see if I can react to it well enough. Like, the pattern is simple, but it's complex enough that, like, he throws a fireball and it creates fire on the walls. Simple pattern. But then, what the mess that the bullets create keep it interesting.
Yeah, the fact that they cross the screen in both directions is what makes this challenging.
Right.
And adds an element of random.
Yeah. Except that I don't think it ever gets to the point where you're like totally trapped, because you have full control of your character's jumps and stuff at all times. Whoops, there we go. Well, I made it pretty far without taking damage.
Almost the third phase.
Dope. I get to almost the third phase without taking damage, and then I take a damage immediately as soon as we get the new full health bar.
Sorry.
Oh gosh.
I was half expecting, except the fact that you said that it's Game Boy for the whole game. Like, I would expect these first 4 levels to be Game Boy, and then the twist is like the character puts down his Game Boy, and then you play the rest of the game in like 16-bit or something like that.
You know, I bet if this developer had the budget, that's probably a game that they would love to realize. I consider this game overall an homage rather than necessarily a completely original work. And that'll become more apparent as we progress.
Once we get past these 4.
Like, this first part of the game is an homage to the classic Vania. So there are people that like classic Vania more than the Metroidvania Castlevania games.
Totally get that. I mean, if you're a fan of the combat and controls and not a fan of the random exploration and having to backtrack all the time, that totally makes sense.
Right. I think it was Ego Raptor who kind of criticized the Metroidvania style when he was doing his sequelitis, the first one.
Yeah. Well, his argument was, would you rather have a tight experience or one that's all fleshed out with a bunch of filler? And
right,
the tight experience was was the original Castlevania, and then the filler, I think he was using Castlevania 2.
Yeah, he was saying Castlevania 2, but he made the point that Castlevania 2 does a lot of the same things that the Metroidvania ones do.
Yeah.
And his
Portrait of Ruin and all that.
His explanation for why those were still fun was because you get rewards frequently, and
it's like eating a Castlevania is a really small but really delicious dessert, and those other games are like a big bag of chips. And yeah, it's fun eating a big bag of chips, but when you're done, you're all bloated.
Right.
Oh,
we got another orb. Hooray! And one of the reasons why I keep talking about what comes later is because I admit that this part is very slow.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's interesting. It is true. The visuals are very, even though it uses an Game Boy aesthetic, it's got kind of a modern movement to it.
I didn't even notice that.
I think the challenges this game presents would be impossible if they went the Game Boy style. They would definitely have to change how... I mean, obviously the bosses and stuff would have to follow the grid pattern as well. That isn't to say that you can't have smooth bosses and gameplay on the Game Boy. It's been pulled off before.
Mario. Wait, what was it on Game Boy? Was it Land? Land on Game Boy?
Oh, this is the one I did in my playtest this week. This level. I had forgotten until I fell in the water. What about Mario on the Game Boy?
What was it? Was Mario on the Game Boy Mario Land? Or is it World?
Yeah, Mario Land. I felt like the first Mario Land was pretty jank.
Oh, it was definitely jank, but it had its moments. I remember there was the part where you get into a submarine, and that blew me away when I was a kid.
Mario Land 2 is still one of the most creative Mario games. I say that, but then you play Mario Odyssey, and it's just absolutely insane.
Well, I mean...
With some of the stuff that they do.
Years in between those two games?
Right, but like Mario Land 2 had you going inside a big toy Mario, inside a giant pumpkin, you went to outer space. It was pretty, it was more than what the console Marios were doing at the time.
And it let you go, I think you had a lot of options. Like, you didn't have to go to specific levels. It was more open.
Yeah, you could go pretty much anywhere you wanted at first, which is also very interesting. And, like, one of the things I liked about the Game Boy is during that era, it was, like, where they did their experiments.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was their experimentation.
Like, they felt like, I don't know if they were cheaper to make or what the situation was, but they felt like they were more willing to take risks on the Game Boy. Some of my favorite tropes that the Zelda series developed came from Link's Awakening. Did I actually get hit there, or was that just amazing pixel perfect?
I think he was just, like, right in your face.
Before he shoots. So the music in this level is very, very chill, very slow. Oh no! The knockback will get you. For now. Whoops.
Like the water isn't even animated.
Well, that was Game Boy time right there. I think he went with this aesthetic because limitations, you know, budget.
And it stands out.
This is a single-man project. Whoops. And it stands out, yeah, maybe. I mean, it worked for Shovel Knight. I always find it surprising. I think about that a lot. Like, why did Shovel Knight succeed where so many other indies fail? And I know it's because it's an amazing game, but I also think because Shovel Knight has a very catchy idea. Like, it's a great character that holds up on his own outside of Shovel Knight.
It was just a good idea. I mean, from the mechanics to the character design.
Right, and when you say Shovel Knight, you know exactly what you're going to get.
Shoveling at night.
That's the survival horror version.
And he obviously knows how to make good mechanics that feel good to play because he's added a bunch of characters to Shovel Knight at this point, and they're all pretty fun to play.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he already established himself with Shovel Knight, so we all kind of believed him at that point. Going back to that idea of the promise, that's one reason why you see more sequels than you do sometime, maybe not in this stream. Alright. There is no exploration until after you beat all 4 of these levels.
Actually, I think the thing that caught me the most off guard with Shovel Knight was how much I enjoyed the little story blurb parts that were in the game.
The story is extremely well done in Shovel Knight. The way it's presented, it's one of my favorite examples of a really well-told story. I don't think that it really has any depth to it beyond it has just excellent presentation, but...
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, the way it's presented, it does an excellent job getting the story across that it's trying to get across.
This is the game's obligatory bouncing ball boss.
Oh, wait, are there spinning buzzsaws in this game?
I don't think there is, actually, so it's not a Metroidvania. I shouldn't have reviewed this game!
Yeah, let's reflect it.
I actually think this is my favorite boss of the first 4. You kind of just do this dance in his crazy room. And you can get plenty of hits in, so that's also a plus.
I actually just glanced up at his health and was like, man, he must be almost dead, and then saw we were only like a third down, and it's like, oh.
It all builds on itself. This is the Hunter x Hunter of Metroidvania games, I think. You just gotta believe. The developer's gonna have something good for you later on.
Is this the run down a long hallway? That is it.
Run down a long hallway? You mean the ladder and...
No. In Hunter x Hunter, one of the early episodes, they just run down a hallway.
That was character building. I should probably just kill myself at the beginning so I have full health when I go into it.
Yeah.
I think I'll do that next time.
I
think I'll do that next time. I try not to do that because, as I've mentioned before, any experience you get with a boss is good experience.
Well, I mean, if this was your first playthrough, then yeah.
That's true. But it's also been 2 years since I've done a full playthrough of this. I'm doing well on this boss because I actually did some sound testing on Thursday, and this was the level I tested it with. The trick with this part is that it always bounces to the left every time, so you can get like right up next to it and not have to worry.
That's not a super hard thing to dodge.
No.
It only bounces like 3 times.
Well, keep in mind, this is only the first 4 times you fight these bosses.
Oh, they recycled bosses?
Sort of.
Oh, do they get more complex?
Everything builds on themselves. You notice that the aliens go away after you fight them right now. Oh no. No! Alright, we got this. So, what have you been playing lately, Nick? That was very miscalculated. Oh, twice.
See, well, I'm always playing my two obsessions, which are RimWorld and Gungeon. Oh! I started playing a game called... I'm gonna have to look it up, because I always confuse it with other games. Any game that has the word factory in it, they all run together in my head.
So wait, did you... You're not on Humble Monthly, right?
No, I am not. I have actually never bought a Humble Bundle. Not a single one.
Oh no.
Yeah, Satisfactory, that's the one.
Satisfactory. You played Factorio though too, right?
I did. Yeah, I played a ton
I think you
of
said that was
Factorio.
one of your favorites.
Yeah, I love Factorio. And Satisfactory really feels like basically a somewhat stripped down, but it's obviously adding more content all the time, 3D Factorio. But there's something very fundamental about those kinds of games that I thoroughly enjoy. I like optimizing supply chains.
Someone said that Factorio is a good idle game.
Yeah, it can be.
And we have to do the dance for this part. Sometimes you can get into phase 4 when you turn. So I think on the third phase, the best option for me is to switch to the ranged attack, and then just focus on dodging.
Sure. That's what you do in Gungeon.
Wait, aren't all your attacks ranged in Gungeon?
Almost all your attacks.
I was gonna say, like,
couple of my weapons.
based on the
Like,
name
there's
of the
a-
game.
One of my favorite, well, not one of my favorite. My favorite character that you unlock is literally just a bullet that runs around that has two hands and no legs, and his starting weapon is a sword, and the name of the sword is Blasphemy.
Also, I forgot to say, welcome, M Tomato. Whoops. Nice Kirby reference there.
And Kirby. I wish they would make a somewhat challenging new Kirby game.
Well, that's the whole point of the series, though, is that it's the beginner's series. Like, it's
Yeah,
intended
but I mean,
to...
like,
Whoops.
Superstar had some challenge to it.
I felt that Superstar was easier than Kirby's Adventure. Like, that was the one I started
Well,
with.
yeah. I mean, Kirby's Adventure is probably the most challenging, but Superstar was still challenging. And it was a modern Kirby.
Oh boy. Yeah, I am actually going to have to play Blasphemous again now that they have the update. I actually have it scheduled currently, unless something else comes up, to try and do it during the Halloween period. Since I think that's a very good Halloween game.
Spoopy.
Well, it's more than it's gory. I don't know if it's spooky. I'm also thinking that I'm going to review Carrion at that time.
Oh, that would be the perfect game to review then.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking about doing for the Halloween week. Oh yeah, Blasphemous. I would love to play that on stream. It is definitely not child friendly. It includes nudity on top of lots and lots of gore.
The 1-2 punch.
Oh yeah, Kirby was one of my favorite games growing up. I love Kirby.
Man. Loved Kirby. Kirby when he takes out his little microphone and sings and then everyone explodes.
Kirby's Adventure was my first one, then I played the Game Boy one. By the way, you want a hard game? You want a hard Kirby game? Play Extra Mode on Kirby's the original Kirby's Dream Land. That is brutal.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I didn't know. I played Dreamland. I didn't remember there was an X mode.
Yes, it's crazy hard. It's unfair, I would say. Like it doesn't telegraph things well, and etc.
Oh.
Which is ironic, given that the whole point of why Sakurai created Kirby was to create a beginner game for people.
Wait, is that really why he made Kirby?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He wanted to make a game that everybody could play.
Ah, so many skulls.
Yeah, this is Skull Town. Yeah, this is your uncle's castle. I'm pretty sure these skulls weren't here because of the aliens.
Your uncle's just a monster.
Like, why does he have a giant crypt beneath his castle? It is possible he just, like, inherited the castle from somebody.
Yeah, maybe he just built it on top of the crypt. Make a good foundation.
Yes. Good thing he's not having poltergeist problems. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. This is a bad situation. Whoops.
Yeah, that's a lot of shrimp.
Yeah. We're not gonna join in on this buffet. I think this level has a little bit more exploration involved.
It seems to be a lot less linear.
Yeah, there was quite a few directions I could have gone. But I chose to go down, because when you go down, you can't go back up. And I totally chose to go down.
It's a good lesson for life.
Oh gosh. Oh no. Like I said, first part of the game is just responding to ambushes.
You should have called this game Destroy All Shrimp.
Destroy all shrimp. Oh my gosh, this is a crazy... Holy cow. If I can get through this with only 1 HP, I'll be amazed at myself. Oh, that was almost amazing. Alright. Looks like the check.
Hey, wait a minute.
Close.
Is your character the robot from Environmental Station Alpha?
He just looks similar, doesn't he? Huh. Environmental Station Alpha with a sword. Not really necessary since the gun's already kind of short range, but... Oh my gosh. These guys actually do 2 damage to you. Oh. That or these levels actually do more damage as you progress through them, I don't know. Haven't really tested that. And I'm about to die like crazy. Wow, of all the ambushes, I've been getting through these levels pretty decently, and my biggest problem has been falling, but these ambushes are really destroying me. Here, come on.
But speaking of Metroidvania's weapons you're not supposed to have, I saw a YouTube video where somebody was playing a modded version of Hollow Knight, and the knight had an AK-47.
How did that turn out?
It actually wasn't as broken as I thought it was going to be, because every time he shot, it took soul energy.
Oh.
And you use it for so many different things, you can't really just spam it.
Interesting.
But it was straight up a gun. And it definitely allowed him to sequence break a bunch of things.
I was about to say, could you like make yourself fly by shooting down?
Yep.
Of course they had that. They have to have that. Because everybody knows that's how real machine guns work.
Yeah. If you grab 2 and aim them down, you're Iron Man.
Alright. Now that I'm apprised of this particular ambush, I can respond to it more appropriately. Oops. Alright, let the shrimp come down. Let the shrimp come down. And just ignore him, because we don't need to kill him. You get to live today, shrimp. I'm just going to try and jump past this one. Alright, get rid of this ambusher. There we go.
That went bad.
That went a lot better. Now the tricky part is getting past these guys without taking damage. Turns out it wasn't so tricky.
Stab them till they're dead.
Works with a lot of things. I think we're just gonna barely make it past these 4 levels for today's stream.
I think this is going to be kind of perfect.
So yeah, I put this game down, didn't pick it up again. And by the way, if you accept a curator game and you haven't reviewed it, Steam will remind you for eternity. It says on the Steam thing that you're not obligated to review anything, but if you're like, I don't know, a perfectionist and like to keep your queues clear, that'll drive you nuts. So
like
it's
the
that
only way to get is to review it.
Yeah, there's a couple of games actually in my curator thing that I accepted that, like for instance, I that one game, which I will not mention because it's a swear word in Brazilian or in Portuguese, Brazilian, has a DLC, and he sent me the DLC as well, and Steam counts that as a separate item. And so it's sitting in my queue as you need to review this DLC. I'm like, well, I did during my main review. I mentioned the DLC.
Oh, right, a separate one.
Yes, and that would require me to have a separate entry on my curator, and it just doesn't look very good. Especially now that the game's not. Yeah, that was interesting. Apparently, I have some of those guys that I skip past are off to the side there. That's not good. Let's go ahead and kill myself, like I said.
A little odd.
That'll solve that problem. I guess he didn't expect you to try and skip the enemies there. This is a good boss to use your sword on, I think. I think this is just a retread of the intro boss, except now he drops fire when he lands.
At least doesn't go up the walls.
Gotta master the jump slash in this game. Oops. No. Okay, good. My invincibility frames are long enough to get out of that.
Actually really reminds me of Ninja Gaiden. Like the original Ninja Gaiden.
Like the boss pattern, or?
No, the fact that you basically always jump when you slash, because in Ninja Gaiden it stuck you to the ground when you swung your sword.
Yeah.
It was like a delay, but if you jumped, it didn't. So you basically played the whole game jumping and attacking or using spin slash.
So second phase, he jumps twice before he gives you an opening, and third phase, I'm gonna guess he jumps 3 times. Oh, called it. Very simple boss. Oh, that was... I'm so glad your invisibility frames last forever in this game. It's a simple idea, but, you know, 3 jumps actually makes it quite a bit more challenging.
Yeah, and you can basically clear the whole stage.
Because you basically have to do the over and under maneuver in order to get past them. Come on. I didn't feel the need to pull out my gun that time, though, so... Not as hard as the other bosses, I think. Get the orb. I don't know if you've noticed, the fire is getting bigger every time we beat one.
Oh, I didn't. Is it like Shadow of the Colossus, where you're getting corrupted every time?
Alright, now we're going to go to Dr. Wily's castle. And fight Alan. Which is only just a hologram. Nobody who watched the... Anybody who did not watch the Mega Man 2 stream won't get that one. Referencing old streams, it's always a good idea.
Oh, yeah? A bunch of these rooms in the background look like the holodeck on the Enterprise.
That's funny. I thought that the backgrounds of this game looked great.
No, they're well done. The way he creates depth and like uses the grid to create curves in the room. That's
and does parallax, even though that's impossible on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible.
I'm almost positive it is.
The Game Boy actually can produce some really good graphics, though surprisingly good. To the
Yeah,
point.
Mario Land 2 is, not to keep tooting that horn, but shockingly good looking for a Game Boy game.
Oh, that wasn't my 5th hit. I like the music here. It's nice and ominous. I think maybe he did all the music by himself too. I know that he has a brother that he worked with on some of this stuff.
I was impressed when people compose music because I have no clue where to even start.
How come this game only has chopsticks?
Pretty much.
Oh gosh. I don't know, I think you probably could make a soundtrack as just all variations of chopsticks. If you're really good at like making variations.
Well, what is there? There's like 15 songs total and everything is just a variation on that.
That's true. Here we are at Dr. Wily. I probably shouldn't call him that.
Yeah, he's clearly aghast from Pokemon.
I have to fight all the bosses at once. As attacks from the main boss.
It's actually kind of clever. I like that. Can you if you damage them, will it damage him, or can you just not damage them?
It doesn't damage them, they just count as a projectile. Oh gosh, now he's combining them. Oh no, because it's phase 2. I bet he gets 3 at phase 3.
Oh, man.
So you heard the boss music from the first one, right?
I have the music on.
But you did listen to it for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I did.
You should check out the boss music for this boss. Oh.
It's a 10.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make it the first time. Again, I probably should have killed myself. It's okay. I do need the practice, so I don't feel too bad about it. I think he might get low enough for me to use the sword, but the way he bobs around, it's just safer to use your gun. Oh, you can't hit that thing. I don't know if that actually did damage to him, though.
Now that we're listening to the more intense music, I think it might behoove you to turn the volume back down 1 click.
Well, this is a bad time to make
Oh,
that.
do it right now! That's the mark of a true master.
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Next time I'll keep the volume down to what we had it at.
Yeah, normal down game sound effects were fine, but the music when it got more intense is loud.
Good to know. I'll keep that in mind for next time. Alright, does that do damage to him? Nope. Okay. Sorry if I go really quiet during this, but this is a pretty intense boss fight.
Yeah, this is tough. There's a lot going on.
So, as I was saying about the JoJo reference, I don't like that first part where you have to go through the 4 levels, but it serves a purpose. Now that we've had practice with all of those bosses, and they give you... You mentioned that those bosses are really slow.
Sure.
And have long HP bars. It gives you a lot of time to get used to what their patterns are, so that this does not feel unfair.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's literally practice for the quote-unquote final boss.
Right. And if this was all the game was, I think it'd be pretty decent, you know, like free itch.io game that you could get.
Yeah. No, having previous bosses as the attacks of the final boss, I like that a lot. That's a great idea.
Come on. I can make it. I can do this. Stop spitting. Oh my gosh. It just comes flying from the right side of the screen.
Hey guys,
Hey, hey, hey.
remember me?
Oh my gosh. Oh man, my adrenaline's going. Have I mentioned that I love this game?
I like that you take moments that would normally frustrate or drive others to just like quit the game, and it actually has the opposite
Oh man, I am
like impact on you.
I am so pumped right now. Oops. But this is also why I recommend checking out other reviewers too, because not everybody's going to be the same as you say. But this
Sure.
is so much fun. I love this boss. And it's so clever and it's so well set up. Like everything in the game was leading up to this one point.
And it's not even the end of the game.
Oh, we're just getting started. Can I actually kill this thing? Because I'd really like to kill the wall monster, because he really messes me up.
He's annoying. It'd be nice if you could like hit them to make them disappear faster than they would normally.
It's possible they are, I'm just not noticing it. Like, I've hit him a couple of times, but... I like how the big orb guy just appears once, fires once, and then goes away, while these other guys are just like total jerks.
The wall guy just takes a vacation.
Oh gosh. Lost it there for a second. We'll get it back. Oh no! Okay, so when the actual summoning orb is out, it doesn't actually hurt you. That's good to know. That'll be helpful in my next try, because, well, I might be able to make it.
You never know.
You never know. I could amazingly get good at the last second and just no damage it. That's one of the most encouraging things about bosses like this, is that even when you're at 1 HP, you still feel like you have a chance, because it's so possible.
Big shrimp.
That's what got me last time, that combo there. I need to figure out where I need to stand during that. Alright, let's go. Oh, I tried to be greedy.
I think this guy probably just had a big shrimp dinner, and these are all the nightmares he's having.
Sir Frank VI went to his uncle's house and had a shrimp dinner, and then he had a dream that his uncle gave him the entire castle.
It's filled with evil shrimp from space.
And I knew my duty. Get rid of all of them. Alright, we broke the first threshold. Yeah, he seems to like combining those two together.
Yeah, it seems like he does wall and then big shrimp. He's not summoning him on a cycle, is he?
He
Is he
might
just
be.
going 1, 2, 3?
I hadn't noticed it yet, but oh gosh. That hurts a lot. Oh my gosh, that hurts.
Okay, I think big shrimp's next.
Yes, Big Shrimp's gonna be next. On the right. So, if I stand right here...
Here he comes.
Perfect. And he gets the double jump. Oh no! So face goes away when Big Shrimp does his second jump.
Now you're gonna get spooky ghost guy.
Well, we're on third phase now, so I don't know how much that changes.
Ah, true.
Face is out. I think everything's just going faster. Alright, face is out, so he's going to do Shrimp on the left. Oh no, I still got hit. Ugh. So much fire.
Yeah, so much fire.
You gotta love a final boss when everything is on fire.
This is...
Oh my gosh, it's going so fast.
Wait, just stay
Maybe
calm.
I did call this game brutal on the, yeah, keep calm, jump over fire. Oh gosh, no!
The fact that the shrimp creates fire and jumps is pretty rough.
Got him! Oh!
Nicely done, man. Very nicely done. I like his health bar breaks.
So many little touches that just make this game amazing.
Those explosions look like wigs.
And we found it. Speed boots. Now we can double tap to run. Our first upgrade.
I feel like this is great because, like, you would expect this to be the end of the game, and then all of a sudden you pick up the first power-up you've ever gotten, and you'd be like, wait, what?
Right, like I said, sometimes you have to be spoiled in order to know that the game is worth it. Alright, now we can move fast. Recognize this place?
Yep.
So remember that statue we saw earlier?
Uh-huh. Oh, is this a map? Oh, it's a password.
It's a password. And now we're in a Metroidvania.
I do like that.
And they start you off in the creepy place, so it's great. Yeah, it's basically a save point.
It's nice that they give you the speed boots so you can move around the levels a little bit faster.
There's so much genius in this game you don't even understand. Alright. I think we're actually at a pretty good place to stop the stream at this point.
Yeah,
We'll get to a new save
solid
point.
brick.
But that is the
And they
beginning
start
of...
introducing new enemies. I'm intrigued. I am looking forward to next week.
Yeah. Notice how long it took us to get to that point, though?
That was a solid, almost hour and a half. No, hour 10, 15.
So the first night, real quick before we end the stream, I didn't think it was a Metroidvania, so I stopped playing it.
Oh, nice.
Got our first health up. I didn't think it was a Metroidvania, so I stopped playing it. And then on the Reddit, the Metroidvania Reddit, the developer posted his devlog. And like the challenges of being a developer and selling your game and the process of development and his ideas. And I'm like, okay, I'll check this out. And then I'm like, I recognize this game. Like when I saw the screenshots.
Yeah.
Look, it's a power-up that's out of reach. Oh yeah, we have really angry shrimp now.
Oh, holy cow, they do a ton of damage.
Yeah, stay away from the really angry shrimp. I'm like, I recognize this game. This looks like... And I'm like, oh. So I made a big mistake by not forcing myself to go through this.
I don't understand what these enemies are. Are they like
So we're just gonna
worms?
go to the first checkpoint here. And then the music, it's all or changes to represent the new setup.
It is very catchy.
And here's our save point. All right. Well, I hope that was interesting to watch and that you learned a little bit about this game. If you don't want to spoil yourself on any more of the game, then please don't come back for part 2 until after you play it. Highly recommend this game. It is so good. We'll see you next week if you decide to come.